Good evening, everybody. It is about 8:30 on Monday, February the 28th. We have a few updates to do tonight, but not a whole lot. The first thing is people keep telling me to not worry about anything in Canada because Ukraine is having problems. And yes, I'm aware that Ukraine is having problems. Everybody in the world is publishing things about Ukraine having problems, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to worry about what's still happening at home because we need to primarily take care of our country first, then we can worry about other things. So yes, there's things happening over there, but we also need to remember that we have things happening here. Also with things in Ukraine, just like in Ottawa, check your sources. Look at how the mainstream media and some other media stuff twisted the story about what was happening in Ottawa. Imagine that we're probably getting some misinformation out of Ukraine as well. So check your sources and be mindful about how much fear is being instilled. I haven't looked too much into Ukraine because I simply haven't the time to look at that kind of stuff, but I have heard some people say that it may not be what it looks like on the surface. There may actually be some things happening underneath, that the whole story may not be what it appears on the surface. So if you think something might be fishy, it's possible that there may be something fishy. But I will not be delving deep into Ukraine or devoting too much time into reporting on that because, well, I have too many other things to do and I'm not in the Ukraine, so I cannot see things firsthand, and I don't know anybody over there who can see things firsthand, so then I can't provide any better information than what anybody else is providing. Ottawa. We are still making preparations for the next round. We're not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but the people are getting much more organized and coordinated there. There's multiple bases that are getting well set up. They're getting actual plans in place to be a lot more effective and a lot more difficult to deal with. There's some trucks who are out and about now, headed to different places, just kind of cruising around waiting for things at the bases to be figured out. So we will have more on that as things happen. I still have people who are there, which is really awesome, but they're taking some time off to regenerate and recuperate a little bit as well. Saw an interesting thing. I went into town today to wash all the Ontario salt off of the truck finally. It was really cool. Somebody bought me, I paid for the car wash essentially, which was pretty cool. I went down to my favorite hardware store and was talking to them for quite a bit. Found out that all of the entire chain that they're a part of was sold out of Canadian flags a couple of weeks ago. It was pretty cool. So not just the store, which my dad cleaned them out, but the entire chain was cleaned out of flags. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, there's a sign on the Trudeau Wall of Shame in said favorite hardware store. I've always wondered what that sign was for, and it said debt share 17,000 some odd dollars. And I thought it had something to do with the structure of the business. But I found out today, no, that was each Canadian's debt share when Mr. Trudeau was elected Prime Minister. And so it was just over $17,000 back in November of 2015. So that was awfully interesting. And so I theorized, well, there's probably a zero behind that by now. But I went and looked it up, and it's actually $32,000 per person. So we're a good portion of the way to having doubled in the 7-ish years. Not even 7 years that Mr. Trudeau has been Prime Minister. So we've almost doubled the debt share in a country that's 150 some years old. That's kind of pathetic, don't you think? Really sad. So I'm glad to know what the sign means, like that little sign means now, but it's also kind of scary to look at what each person's share is. It means between my wife and I, it's $64,000 if we were to pay back our share of the debt. And I don't know what benefit we've received from that perceived doubling in the time it has doubled. Something like people to do now that I'm back here in Alberta where there's not a whole lot of activity happening because most of us feel the same way anyways. There's no flags flying. Like I saw one today. Buy those cheap little flags that stick in the window of your vehicle. Fly flags. Fly them off your house, off your business, those kind of things. It's really simple and cheap and easy to do, and there's no reason to not do it. We're going to be flying them off of our farm equipment this year for the first time. I've wanted to, but now finally I have motivation to do so. So we're actually going to go ahead and buy some flags and do that. As well as I'm trying to get a Canadian flag, an Alberta flag, and a Quebec flag to fly off of our 75-foot tower that we have in our yard for internet out in the middle of nowhere. So fly some flags, show some support. You'll be surprised at how many people honk and cheer at you if you are flying flags off your vehicle while you're driving. I'd like to remind people of the human chain that is planned for March the 5th on the TransCanada, and actually hear that there are some alternate routes as well that is trying to put a chain together. So if you're not close to TransCanada, do some digging. You'll probably find a chain nearer to you than going to the TransCanada. And I'd take a moment to thank the trolls, all the ones who say that I'm a no good or living in my parents' basement. This is my basement in my house that I paid for with cash. And they they're constantly putting comments out that I need to give it up and go home and that we're all a bunch of losers and that we lost and what freedoms have we lost and all those things. I'd just like to say thank you, trolls, for your extra views and your comments and your reactions you put on the videos. That's been really nice and helpful and supportive. Even though your message is negative, every view still counts a little bit. So thank you to the trolls. I'm going to try to get some farming stuff put up here next little while because that's what I want to do is farming stuff. So I'm going to get some video farming stuff up here next little while, as well as try to do at least once a day updates on things as they happen. Probably won't have too much news for next little while, but when things settle down a bit, the dust settles more in Ottawa and things start to happen there, I will try to report on that. I'm also going to try and get involved with the movement here in Alberta as things get put together, so there will be probably more on that for me as well. So thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow night.